today we're going to talk kind of about what you need to be able to do in order to do a pull-up. A lot of times people want to start training with me and they're like, where are we going to start? What are we going to do? Whether they just started working out or they've been working out the last 10 years, I don't want to make assumptions. So I'll check them out through a qualitative assessment, basically just see how their body's functioning. And kind of from there I'll make recommendations on training and what they should do or they need to do in order to get to their goals. So one of the things I like to do with people is kind of see where their shoulder blade recruitment's at. Can they move it? Can they actually use their back the way it's supposed to instead of just use their biceps when they try to do a type of row or like a pull-up? So today we're going to kind of go over that stuff, and then you'll figure out and see different ways in order to be able to get yourself to do your own pull-up. So your shoulder blades can move several different ways. They can elevate, they can depress, they can protract, and they can retract. So all these are going to be important in order for us to get long-term success and good shoulder health. So we're going to look at a few different ways that we can do that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead with a regular row now. I'm just going to be standing here and I'm going to pull straight back. You don't want to lean too far back, so we're going to hyperextend your back here. We want to keep things in a straight line. We're going to sit up tall. We're going to pull our shoulder blades back and pull straight through. I'm going to be doing different row types too, so this is just one angle so you can kind of see my shoulder blades. So I'm going to go ahead and stand back a little bit with this guy. It's not going to be too hard. Don't pick something that's too difficult that you can't actually pull with your shoulder blades. We don't want to do anything that's going to make us fail at the exercise. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to stand up tall, sticking my chest out, not hyperextending my back. I'm going to go ahead and pull my shoulder blades together and then pull my hands to my armpits. So you can see how much of a difference that's going to make if I actually use my shoulder blades as opposed to if I pull back and I don't. And I kind of let my elbows pop up, or I kind of pull in like this. I don't get any shoulder blade movement, but if I stick my chest out a little bit, tilt my head and get in that neutral position, I'm going to pull my shoulder blades back and pull straight through. So one of the other ways I said that we'd be able to do a row to start out with, I would be using a suspension trainer. So I'm going to go ahead and do that this time. So with this, the only difference on difficulty would basically be where I'm standing, using more percent of your body weight. There's not going to be as big of a metric from a weight standpoint. It's going to be more about angle and your own body weight percentage. But that's okay. Right now we don't want to do anything that's going to make us fail at doing the contraction of your shoulder blades, retracting them back. So what I'm going to do from here, again, I don't want to hyperextend my back or anything. I'm just going to stay nice and tall in a straight line. I'm going to stick my chest out though, keeping my head in a neutral position. I'm going to go ahead and fall back, let my shoulder blades protract forward. I'm going to go ahead and retract here, and I'm going to pull myself all the way up, squeezing them back, keeping my elbows in. Alright, so now I'm going to do a hinge row on these Olympic rings. It's my favorite way to do this row on these rings, just because you can transition so easily, and I can pull myself to the space in between and not rub my shoulders or anything. You know, if you did it on a suspension trainer, that's fine. That's where I started doing it, and it worked great too. I just prefer this a little bit because I just feel like I can get a little more into it. So this would kind of be a really good segue to get to a pull-up. Once you've got that row established, you have a good contraction there, you're going to be able to do this guy, and it's a really good supplemental thing in between. Even if you were started to do pull-ups and you did like a set of 3, you could always drop set into this depending on where you're at. So what we're going to do here, instead of just doing a regular row, over here, squeezing back those shoulder blades again, pulling straight up, we're going to do that. And now there's a couple ways we can do this, but we're going to stay in that straight line again. But from here, now when I go ahead and pull myself up, I'm actually going to pull myself up and push my hips back, kind of fold forward, which is why it's called a hinge row. So it's going to look like this. So when I do that, I'm going to pull myself forward, squeezing my shoulder blades back and down. So we're going to depress the shoulder blades and retract them. So again, it's going to look like this. Now if I wanted to make that easier, I could step further back and still get that awesome shoulder blade recruitment. I could always come forward, make it harder. Now if I made it harder and it didn't feel quite right, I could always lower these a little bit too. If that's too hard or you don't have the space, you can always bend your legs like this.
Take out some of the weight, kind of bridge your hips up. Then from here, you just would fold forward. So my legs are no longer in front, it's less percent of my body weight. There is a different element to this too, where people actually rotate their hands. A lot of times they like being here, and then when you pull yourself up, you rotate them back. Usually when people start, I like them just to focus on one component at a time, not to worry about that necessarily. Otherwise we would be here, and we'd rotate forward. So from a different angle, what that would look like, instead of doing this regular row, we would go ahead and come here. Now if I want to rotate my hands forward as I came up, I'd pull myself forward, pull my shoulder blades down, and squeeze them back. So you can also do this in the squat rack like I was saying. If it's not in a Smith machine, which is that fixed bar that only slides up and down, you actually put a barbell in here. Make sure that you're not going to pull yourself backwards. Like I'm not going to face in right now and do this because this would slide right off and I, bash my head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I face out this way, and then when I do it, I'm going to pull back against this. Okay. So the only difference here is that I'm not going to be able to pull myself in between the two. So again, I could make it easier, be here, bridge my hips up, and kind of still hinge there and pull back down and squeeze my shoulder blades. Otherwise, if I need it to be a little bit harder, I can just hinge at my hips right here. If you can do a hinge row, you're close. It's not the farthest thing away. If you can do that, you can always work on assisted chin-ups, assisted pull-ups, depending on what you have available to you. There's a lot of different ways we can do that. Again, with the suspension trainer, the rings, or even the bar over there, we can kind of manipulate how much assistance we're gaining, or you could even use a band to put underneath you on a pull-up bar. You can kneel in or you could step on. But for intensive purposes right now, we're going to assume we don't have some of that stuff, like the bands. So I can show you one here. We're going to end up using just your legs to help support. So the main thing we want to do here is squeeze down your shoulder blades, pull yourself up. So from this angle, I'm going to go ahead and look up. Okay, so I have my arms fully extended right here. I'm going to just squeeze down my shoulder blades. We're going to do that depression, and we're going to pull straight up. Now, how hard this is going to be a little bit dependent upon how much I'm using my legs in order to help me. You want to make sure that you're doing this successfully. So as much as you need, but as little as you have to. So I'm going to go ahead and come down. I'm going to try to stay looking up just a little bit. I'm going to squeeze down those shoulder blades. I'm going to pull and squeeze back my back. Let's say this is just too easy. You can always come up, come here, pick up your legs, do the negative. Get used to that amount of weight, that stimulus. Pull yourself up, pick your legs up, let yourself down. Okay? To get yourself used to that more maximal intensity would be a flex arm hang. You probably did this in elementary school, and the kids who could lock out and just sit there, it's a little bit different when you maybe weigh 60 pounds and now you're like, you're not 60 pounds and you're going, how am I going to be able to do this? Well, again, we can do it assisted. We're just going to go ahead and lock your arms out, squeeze them back and down your shoulder blades. You could do it like this, you can do it like this, you can do it like this, whatever which way is more comfortable for you. So depending on what or where you want to start with that, palms facing you typically is going to be the easiest. This would be second easiest. This would be the hardest for right now. But eventually, from a chin up to kind of a neutral grip to a pull up, we're going to want to be able to do all of them, and it's going to add a lot of variety to everything that we do. That would look like that assisted pull up if you were from the back facing in. So what I want to do again is I'm going to look up. I'm going to squeeze down my shoulder blades, and I'm going to pull myself up. If you're on something like rings and you want to rotate to make it easier, that's fine too. We can go ahead and squeeze down and then pull yourself up this way to make it a little bit easier to get those shoulder blades retracted. Now, if that's too easy of assistance, again, we can kick your legs out in front of you, try to go straight up and down here and pull yourself up. If you've been successful at doing the negatives, you're gonna be right there. You're gonna be so close. You'll probably be able to do maybe 1 or 2 if you've been able to do like 3 negatives at least, really controlled, maybe up to 5. Just think though, if you do the negatives, don't do them every day. It's really hard on your nervous system. Your tendons and ligaments need time to recover too. You're gonna need more time in between sets. You might do that first set and you're like, wow, this is great, this is great. The second set, you start falling faster. Third set, you're just basically hitting the ground. Just quit while you're ahead. You know, it's little by little. We're trying to get adaptations going. So from there, we can try that first successful pull-up. So in a kind of a free hang, even if you want to start with your legs a little bit on the ground like this, or you want to pull them up completely like this, that's fine too. What we're going to do then is we're going to depress those shoulder blades and just pull ourselves straight up, all the way back down. If you get mid-set and you start to crap out, you could always start to put your feet down or kind of regress like we did in that row. And then you can pull yourself up, kind of a little bit of a jump, and then kind of assist yourself that way.